Today, I've got the pleasure of speaking with Alberto Rostagno, a Senior Vice President from Dematic. Alberto, can you give us a brief overview of your experience in automation?
Yes, thanks, James, first of all, to have invited me at this very interesting conversation. My name is Alberto Rostagno. I joined Dematic in 2021 as the customer service profit and loss responsible for EMEA, so Europe and Middle East. And I spent the first 2.5 years in Dematic trying to create a European customer service organization, starting from 3 separate teams that are working in Central Europe, South Europe, and North Europe. In August last year, I've been moved to be the responsible for the sales activity for projects. And this is what I'm currently doing. I arrived in the industry after 25, 26 years in the energy, oil, and gas world. And for me, it has been so far a fascinating experience because I'm learning every day something different and new.
That's great to hear. So where does your passion for the industry come from, or what made you want to be a part of intralogistics specifically?
But the passion comes from complex project management. So at the end, I have always been working in projects business. And I think the understanding of the customer needs and translating in a project that suits their needs is something that always fascinated me. Understand what they have in terms of technical needs and then commercial needs, financial needs, their business model, and transform is in a technical solution and then a commercial viable solution is something that really excites me.
Excellent, excellent. And what changes have you seen so far in your experience within the intralogistics industry?
Let me tell you, unfortunately, I arrived in the industry during the roller coaster of this industry, no? Because I arrived when everyone was excited that this industry could have just an incredible growth. The future was perfect and there was nothing to stop. Unfortunately, after 2 years, then there was a realization that capacity built was too much. There was not enough capability in the market to make this project work. And there was not enough business for all the warehouses to run. So we went through from an incredible excitement to a very deep depression. And now I'm really living maybe the more steady state situation where this is a very good industry with solid fundamentals, but without this crazy growth percentage that is being faced during the COVID, post-COVID type of period.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Now, Dematic understandably have a very large portfolio. So given your multifaceted capabilities, where are you seeing the most demand at the moment in terms of solution?
Being responsible for Europe, this is an answer that has a lot of nuances. Because clearly every country or every group of countries have their own dynamics. If you take a look at the, let's say, more Latin countries, so France, Spain, Italy, clearly the big projects are somehow on hold or in continuous development. Very few are really closed and they are moving forward. There is a high, let's say, high reflection in how to move forward this industry without some external funds, subsidies, support, and to reply what was the very positive trend that they were facing at the end of 2018, 19, and 20. If you take a look at the German part, so the DACH area, clearly they are suffering the automotive industry situation and all the, let's say, mechanical industry pull-through that is generated by the automotive industry. And so that is really not flying. And UK still is stabilizing post-Brexit. If you take a look in terms of vertical, clearly food and beverage, groceries, they do not have particularly stopped because people need still to have food at home. Apparel and all the luxury element is very stagnant, and manufacturing or durables, as you want to mention, clearly is suffering as well. So clearly the food industry that is very wide. It goes from the Horeca in Italy to the real grocery. This is where still we see a growth and a continuous market.
Excellent. And how do you think mobile robotics has changed this space?
Let me tell you, it's not at the past, the verb. So it's changing. It's still not something that is perfectly established as change. Clearly, this gives us a wider opportunity to develop projects where there is not a huge number of goods to be moved. It allows much more flexible type of investment because all the infrastructure needed to run the more standard automation project is not needed there. But the industry there is still developing, stabilizing. Most likely of the hundreds of players that they are coming from Far East or that they are developing in Europe, very few will remain. And I think that at this stage, the industry will be considered as developed.
Excellent. Do you think that will change in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you think are the key trends that are shaping the industry?
Clearly, robotics in general, you mentioned is the biggest driver. I see this very impactful for whatever are the picking processes and picking operations. Clearly, as soon as that will be, companies capable to replicate the hands capability in a much more, let's say, sophisticated way, that will make the real change in this kind of part of the process. The aim to arrive to plants that will be fully automated is clearly the long-term goal, where really they can be run even maybe remotely, and that could be another huge trend. And the third one clearly is how the software development, including the use of cloud, the use of artificial intelligence, will modify these things, and the integration even more between the different layers of software, between the WCS, the WMS, the WES. So all these things clearly will be the next trend of the future. And they are already trended today.
Of course, yeah, of course. Now, Alberto, what are the biggest hurdles or challenges that you faced in your career in getting to where you are?
Let me tell you, clearly having, and let me divide the answer in two phases. The last 4 years and before. So the last 4 years for me has been to reformat my brain, to change my habits, to change my paradigms, let's say, because having worked 25 years in an industry, the first thing that I really try to avoid is I was used, the typical phrases, I was used to do this, we were doing this, it is possible to adapt this because, so really change the format of my mind and adapt to the industry instead of pretending to act the same way. For me has been the bigger alter, because you always have the tendency to come back to your comfort zone. So the things that helped you in the past, not always are the things that will help you in the future. So that for me has been a real big change, not being an expert of the industry. So I had to learn everything in 4 years, and I'm still learning every day. I always say I'm not an expert. So I always try to learn every day from the great people that works in Dematic. And in the let's say in the previous part of my career, the hurdle has always been that maybe I was not excelling in one particular skills, while I was very good at understanding the general things happening in a company and put the dots together. So not being a real functional expert or a real, let's say, champion in any of the different roles, clearly the role of profit and loss leader were the one where I had better performances. Well, when I had leadership position in pure functional area, it was where I struggled more. So that in a very honest way.
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. Now, it's a highly competitive marketplace at the moment, and Dematic is in a lot of competition with some of the other larger integrators. How do you think the Dematic solution specifically stands out against these other top integrators?
Let me tell you, I take from my previous responsibility in Dematic. If there is one thing that I can say, and I think it cannot be discussed, the level of reliability of the equipment of Dematic are by far better than most of the other competitors. So if you have tough operations where you have a very high level of throughput or high intense type of operation, clearly the Dematic solution gives you a sort of insurance that during steady operations, during your business, you will never be left in difficult situation. The second thing is the broad portfolio of products that we can have, and the huge capability to integrate, not just, again, at the WCS level, but also at the WMS level with software. So I think this is really where we are, let's say, differentiating ourselves versus competition.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Now, you are in quite a senior leadership position in the business. What are some key qualities that you look for in hiring sales professionals?
Let's divide the sales leaders or the people that have a leadership position in sales versus the account manager and the pure sales people. So for me, there are two characteristics that a great sales leader needs to have. First of all, he needs to think like a business leader, not just as a sales leader. So really understand the implication of his role in a wider picture. And the second thing is really how he drives influence within the organization with his leadership. So, sales at the end do not own the vast majority of the organization. They are really, sales organization are really the smallest one. But the capability to influence all the other functions with his leadership, for me, is fundamental for a good sales leader. If you instead talk about a sales manager, for me, even here, so try to summarize to two characteristics. One is really the capability to translate the need of a customer in a business model for Dematic. And the second one is really to understand the signal from the customer. If a deal is real, if a deal is, you are well positioned, how the other competitors are acting. So these for me are two important characteristics of a sales in a project business that, needs a lot of intelligence to be successful.
And I suppose that leads on to my next question. What is your management and leadership ideology? How have you found it managing such a large network of international employees?
First of all, I try to avoid micromanagement, and I try to avoid to enter in the shoes of my direct report. So I fully trust them and I fully support them until nothing in contrary happens. And for me, the role of leader is really putting those people in the best condition to execute at their full potential. The second thing, I think that you can motivate everyone, and there are simple methods to do it. But I, again, trust that senior people is motivated by their own reasons. And I don't want to create a uniform approach. Now the people is motivated. Is people more motivated for future career growth, people motivated by money, we have to be honest, people motivated by the role. And you cannot try to have just one team with one characteristic. You need to have team with different characteristics, take what is important for them and try to push that button. That is what I think. Again, and I try to give good examples. So if there is a need of a period of high intensity, I'm the first one to be there. If there is a period where you need to be more in the analysis or trying to understand what is happening before acting, yes, I am the first one to try to do it. So I try really the leading by example kind of attitude. That is another key trait for me.
Excellent. So trusting in your direct reports, motivating people in the way that they most need to be motivated, treating everyone like individuals, and then obviously leading from the front as well.
Yes, very well. I will use it next time.
Excellent. No problem. No problem. Now, in your eyes, Alberto, what's been your biggest achievement, or what are you most excited about on the horizon?
Let me in my biggest achievement in the last 4 years has been really give a sense of identity and a sense of pride to the customer service organization in Dematic. We became bigger than the project business, and I think that I feel really proud to have been part of that team and to have led that team. What I am excited is that having seen this roller coaster and having clear the fact that this industry has solid fundamental for the future, I think the future could be just better, much more stable, much more driven for sustainable growth, much more in line to, let's say, have a clever go-to-market strategy for each player, instead of fighting everyone for each project going in a price battle. I think that is what excites me more.
Excellent. Excellent. It's great to have pride in the customer service and the aftermarket aspect.
Yes. Now, I think the customer service element is really the business card that every company has for long-term relationship with the customers. Without this working, it's very complicated that you have continuous and repetitive business with your customer base.
I would completely agree, Alberto. We've seen more recently that businesses have collapsed due to the lack of aftermarket support.
Yes, for sure.
What I'll ask you next is there anyone in the industry, either a person or a company, that you can point to that had the biggest influence or impact on your work?
I moved to this industry also thanks to my previous boss in my previous company that became the CEO of Dematic during the golden age of automation, so between 2018 to 2023. That has been Hasan Dandashly. He retired, and I think in Dematic and before of Dematic, for me, has been a role model, not just as a manager, but as a person, how he dealt with people, how he respected everyone, how he was capable to give opportunities to all of us. I think has been a great example. And again, I'm still thankful that he gave me the opportunity to move to Dematic.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's always important to have that kind of role model for how you act in business-wise.
Yes.
Now, my last question for you, Alberto, what advice would you give someone who's looking to move into the industry in 2024 or 2025?
The suggestion is to embrace the industry not as a short-term opportunistic move, but as a long-term dedication to an industry that has its own rule. You need to learn it. You need to be humble to enter in this industry. But again, as is an industry with good fundamentals, with very interesting projects, technically, commercially, at the end, you influence how the goods are moved in your own country, in your own region, in Europe, or in the world. And that's really is something that impacts the life of everyone every day. So that is the kind of suggestion. Don't take it as a short opportunistic thing, because most likely in the next 2 years will not be just roses, but take it as a long-term commitment to embrace a very interesting industry.
Excellent. Yeah, I think those are very wise words. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions that I've got for you for today, Alberto. But would you like to make any closing remarks?
No, James, I think that those kind of conversation and discussion are really important, because there is a sort of sharing of experiences that all of us can give to the people that is arriving in this industry or that is entering in their career. And if I would have it 30 years ago when I started, most likely a lot of the things that I learned by mistake, I could have avoided. So I think just to give my very small contribution for this thing.